Hey everyone, welcome back to your favorite sales podcast. I'm your host, Ross Rich, and today we have a very special guest. Going back to my Stripe days, although we never overlapped, we have Robert Clarkson, an amazing leader across the Stripe revenue team, and we're grateful to have him here, taking a few minutes out of his busy day to join us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, once a Stripe, always a Stripe. So you're never former Stripe.
There we go. I love it. But before we get into things and start talking execution excellence, a couple topics that I'm personally very passionate about that I'm glad Robert decided to dig into today. Would love to hear a bit about your journey, Robert, and how you got into revenue leadership.
Sure. Well, thanks for asking. I had a boss a long time ago, and this was when I was like 16 and working at the beach on an arcade or something. And she told me a long time ago that nothing happens until something gets sold, and then after that it has to be paid for. And I thought to myself, well, I probably should be on one or both of those sides of the fence. And so my journey has always been kind of the selling and the continuous servicing of customers in one way, shape, or form. And sometimes it was very simple, carrying the bag, selling the goods in it and going basically from opportunity to opportunity. But as you find out along the way, I've had multiple opportunities within my career. You find things that really work and things that really don't work. And even the things that didn't work out as well as you had thought or even had anticipated turn out to be the things that actually redirect your career. So it all kind of moves you towards a revenue position, which is revenue isn't just selling something, it's making sure that that's activated and used, making sure that it's paid for, making sure that it grows over time. And so that's the difference between pure sales and then how it evolves into kind of a revenue generation, because I see sales as a one-time thing, revenue is a continuous thing. So that's what you want to get to.
That's a great point. Was there a moment in your career that stands out of, it translated it from theory to reality with that, concept?
I definitely think so. I think a few times early in my career, I had I was in the money movement business, as I currently am now, and I was really focused on the sale itself, like selling the tool. And what happened was there was kind of this elation of the actual sale, and then forgetting that the important part was all the stuff after the sale. And that's where it kind of imprinted itself on me that selling was just the opportunity for something awesome to happen. Mm-hmm. Revenue was the thing that you really were after, and that kind of customer engagement. So I had seen that multiple times where we had sold a service, but the service never really became embedded in their day-to-day lifestyle. So I realized that not only do you need kind of a sales effort, but you need this kind of ongoing support effort, and that's what really drives the revenues. And as you're from Stripe, 96% of my revenue comes from existing customers. The other 3% comes from a new customer who will be part of that 96% next year, right? Yeah. So that whole revenue component of what comes after the sale is the reason I'm where I am.
Totally. It's interesting, and this probably seems more innate to you since you've been in kind of the consumption-based, fintech world for a long part of your career. That's where I started. Well, started in the music industry, but that's for another time. But
okay, good.
Sales and technology started in, the fintech world and then moved to SaaS. And it's been such a stark contrast to how people think about revenue and sales. From a company only gets paid when their customers are processing and you only make a small amount every time. So they need to be successful over a very long term inherently, or getting paid on an annual upfront contract, which although is really great for your burn rate, and a great business model, actually inherently causes challenges post sales because you don't have that monetary, and it can kind of go especially for a 2 or 3 year commit contract, you don't feel the pain of that as a business until much later. So it's been really interesting to see, again, what kind of seems just, in your DNA, being in that space for a long time compared to being in the SaaS world. So it's been really
I completely agree. I like you said, I've been in the consumption-based or ad valorem business for a long, long time. I appreciate the both models, and I love the consistency of the SaaS model and ARR and kind of this predictability of it. But I also like the fact that in a consumption-based model, you earn your business every day. So literally every day you have to wake up and say, how do I engage with my customers today? Because nothing is given. I used to use the analogy, some people sell toasters. I actually give you the toaster and only get paid when you make toast. So I want you to really love toast. Right?
Yeah, we're going to build toast into your day-to-day, which is the perfect, I think, segue into the first of 2 topics we're going to be diving into today on this episode around driving execution excellence. I think it's one of the core fundamentals of just how modern sales and revenue should be done. And I think it gets talked a lot about. I don't think it's lived as much as it probably should be, which is understanding that customers buy outcomes, not products. And so I'm excited to dig into this and, kind of put it another way. They buy the why, they don't buy the how. So yeah, excited to hear why this is kind of number 1 on your list of the most important things to kind of orient the team around.
Absolutely. And this kind of goes back to how you started the conversation and how my career and perspective progressed over the years. And it really, many people think that the sale or the conversation with the customer is about what products or features you're selling them. And that certainly is a component of it. But what customers are really looking for is an outcome. They're looking for a result. And my best sales folks and people that I've learned from over the years have always been attuned to what's in it for the customer. And more specifically, what's in it for the customer of the customer, right? The person you're selling to. But people who spend most of their time talking about features and benefits, one, it's easy to be outsold if you're just selling different versions of blue, green, yellow, red, right? Because somebody comes with some tweak on that color, and then all of a sudden you can be outsold even with maybe a superior product that you might have. But if you focus on outcomes, if you focus on what's in it for the customer all the time, you never go too far away from what they're really buying based on. And to me, I actually set this up in a past role that I had, which was I actually had some of the compensation plan for my salespeople based on the measurement of the outcome of the customer benefit.
Wow.
Not just what we sold to the customer, but did the customer actually benefit from the thing that we did? And by the way, how do I measure that benefit? Is it new customers? Is it a higher order value? Is it more transactions? Is it more geographies? Like whatever it is, like they obviously set the buying criteria. But I thought it was really critical to introduce the fact that outcomes are what people are looking for, not products, right? People, if you're in the race car business, you buy a fast car not because you want to have a fast car. You want to win. Like winning is the thing. You want to cross the finish line first. So is that a bigger engine? Is that a lighter car? Is that better tires? Is it better transmission? Like it could be 50 other things, and you can sell those along the way. But if you've ever spent time, in competition of any sort, like we are going to win. And like Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys is like, whatever we do is in the pursuit of winning.
Yes.
Like we will buy stuff, we will get players, we will get managers, but winning is the thing.
And don't lose sight of the outcome for the shoes you're going to wear or the field we're going to play on in those details, which you could sometimes get very bogged down on, especially in a technical sale, right? Especially when it's technically involved and there's people validating, you could get really stuck in there. Not that that's not important, but it's not the reason why. Another thing that actually just came to mind that I feel like people think is value selling and selling on the outcomes is focusing on the challenges, right? Yeah. And I think there's this obsession in training and in sales of like the pain points and the challenges. Those are things, yes, that are important and they're emotionally tied to, so it's helpful in sales, but it's not the outcome. It's not the aspirational, inspirational thing that I feel like really drives people. People want to win. They want to achieve those outcomes. Yes, they'll be frustrated by the pains, and that's a way to get them there. But I feel like it's either we're selling the features or we're selling the challenges that we obsess over instead of the thing that I think can be really motivating and aspirational, which is, like you're saying, their version of winning.
Completely agree. In fact, that FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt that people sell in, like, that's a short train ride. Like,
yeah, I think people overly obsess about that stuff from what I've seen. Yeah.
You may have, especially if you're more enterprise sales, you're going to have a consortium of buyers within an organization. So there will be people who are the protectors of the process, right? So they're the ones that are more concerned about, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yes, you have to put those fires out along the way, but that's not what everybody's in the room for. Yeah. They're in the room to benefit the company in such way.
Totally. And also, you brought up a part before we move off this piece that I thought was well put, which is selling with versus selling to. So curious what that means to you and how you want your field to be living that.
I mean, at Stripe and even places I've been before, there's platforms, there's marketplaces, there's companies, and a lot of times you sell to those platforms, companies, the customer that's across the table from you. But in actuality, what you're trying to do is sell with them to their customers and their opportunities. And so I really try to emphasize, how do I translate what we're talking about today as a buyer and seller into a value proposition for your customers? Because honestly, that's the one I want to appeal to, right? And to me, that's a really critical gap in many go-to-market strategies, which stops at the selling to. Like the applause comes, oh my goodness, you got a great account, and they're whether it's at SaaS and they paid their fees, or they're running through volumes or whatever it is on a per usage basis. But in actuality, what keeps that motor going is, how do I sell that value proposition through to your customers, which makes it much more sustainable.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and we were kind of talking about this before. Is I think the best executive buyers think about their customers more than their internal processes. And the challenge there, again, is going back to the similar thing around the technical buyers. Well, most of the middle management people you're going to be talking to that run the project around buying are going to be thinking about processes and their own company. But the DMs, the people with the money that can do big, exciting deals, don't care about that stuff at all. It doesn't impact them, and if it does impact their team, they're like, get over it. We're trying to drive outcomes for our customers.
Well, and so you bring up a really interesting point. And I have a friend who is a very, very senior executive at let's just say a gigantic retailer, right? None bigger, put it that way. And he said to me, "Don't tell me what you're going to do for us. Tell me what you're going to do for my customers. We will always take care of ourselves," meaning the retailer will always watch out for its own best interests, whether it's its costs or its strategies. But if you're telling me that you're going to take care of my customers or make my customers' lives better, we can talk all day. Yeah. And I just think that's a huge win. And by the way, it's Walmart. Right. So they know a little something about customers, and they know a little something about, sustainability. And a company that big is still saying, listen, don't talk to me about the benefit to Walmart. Walmart is a big, smart company, and we will figure it out. If you can benefit my customers, then we have a conversation.
Totally. And that's kind of, I think, in sales is the empathy that you need to have for the different stakeholders you're dealing with. I think this is why there's so few people that are at the very, very, very top of their game. I think the best people orient themselves in every conversation around the why for that person. So you're going to go through 95, maybe 98% of the sales process pitching to the reports under this executive who's making the final decision, and partly talking about that as part of the pitch, but like they care about their stuff, right? Their processes. And then when you go to make the ask, you're kind of reorienting everything around something completely different. And kind of question to you is like, how do you think about training a team to do that effectively, right? How do you think about operationalizing the understanding that everyone's going to care about a different thing? And each pitch needs to kind of tie, it can't just be totally different, right? Like it kind of needs to be coherent with that conversation, needs to ladder down to, maybe the end user in the admin part of the product, and how does that impact their end customer?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question because we've all been in conversations with multiple buyers at a customer or a prospect, and there are a lot of competing views on what's important, right? You might have the IT people who are more worried about the integrity of the software or the approach, right? Then you have the sales, the revenue person who's really like, how does this grow my business? That's what I care about. Others are like, hey, how is this in keeping with the brand, and how do we manage that, right? Because you're going to embed this process and it's going to be kind of ours. So how does that protect the brand? I really try to find a common thread, which is benefit to your customer. Like I really think that if you center your conversation, and we touched on this a few minutes ago, which is, if I look at the key decision makers in the process, and you referenced a few of them by function, the one that is rarely in the room, almost never in the room, is the end customer. So my job, and theirs too, is to make sure that I reflect what the end customer either would be looking for or would benefit from or would grow with the services or products that I'm offering. And so I think that's one way to ground a conversation, especially when there's many competing outcomes that people are looking for, to keep circling it back to, for your customer, here's what's going to happen. And by the way, an engaged and loyal customer is, first of all, the most valuable thing any company is looking for, and two, it's the thing that drives their business forever and ever and ever. And so, if you're adding to engaged and loyal customers and circling resources around that, you will have a productive conversation. If they can't link what you're doing with an outcome to their customers, it's uphill the entire way. You're swimming upstream, and honestly, you may win a few of those for the deal signed, but then comes the real work of trying to implement it, and then it gets really tough.
And not getting those resources, right? I think that's also another kind of interesting point when you think about the delivery, not just the sale. If you don't have that key driving why that's high enough, yes, you might get someone to say yes to it, but then you're not going to resource the project continuously if you don't have that why for their customer, right? That's
absolutely. You want to be able to sell to what the CEO is going to say in their annual letter. We got more customers. Our customers use us more. We have more customers in South America than we ever had before. Like, those are the things that if you could sell to that objective. I worked for Ken Chenault a long time ago at Amex, and he used to do this exercise that basically said, imagine what the headline is about American Express 1 year from now, and what do you want it to be, and then what are you doing today to get to that headline? I'm like, well, that's a pretty cool North Star. Right?
Yeah, what's the PR release that they can, that you're reinforcing for your customers? And again, going back to outcomes instead of features, and some of the pain is like, that's inspirational. That's what you're going to get multiple stakeholders behind and motivate people, even at status quo legacy companies, to get fired up about, right?
Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Well, the last piece before I let you get back to it is talking about how technology ties into all of this stuff, right? Mm. How do you think about, either it accelerating or hindering a lot of this deep understanding of customers, selling the why, understanding how it impacts their end customers, and technology in the world of go-to-market?
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously we're technologist companies in our past and current, and technology is an incredible enabler. It closes immense gaps between buyers and sellers, between information and users. Like, it's an incredible tool. And certainly, starting with email and then moving to Slack and IM, and now you have artificial intelligence and other things. See, that compression continues to not only get more effective, but it's also faster, it's more ubiquitous. So all of the things that you want technology to do, they are clearly doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is a people business. And kind of like we just touched on before, technology is an enabler for the success of your customers. It is not what the customers are looking for. It is actually what they're looking for is a better life, a smoother transaction, a better vacation, like, better health, like whatever the thing is that they're buying, right, is the thing that they want. And technology allows, I use this, shrinks the distance between want and have. I want this service. I want this.
Makes it easier to get to that outcome. Yeah,
absolutely. So technology takes chunks of that out and compresses it, right? Packets of information that shrink that distance. But at the end of the day, it is a value proposition resonating with a human being. And so I once gave a commencement speech at a college, and I gave them 3 pieces of advice. And the first one was, in your career, gaps, problems are the opportunity. Like companies want you to find things that you can fix for them, make it faster, make it better, whatever it is. And so don't look for the easy assignments, look for the tougher ones, because those are the ones that actually move the business forward and subsequently your career. So that was the first point. The second point was in the super business book of Good to Great, Jim Collins had a million great points in there, but one of them was luck and the value of luck. And every CEO that he had referenced at some point, she said, "Oh well, I was lucky in my career along the way." But he actually decided that it wasn't luck; it was the return on luck. It was actually what they did with the luck they got. Right? We got luck all the time. It's just a matter of some people see it as, wow, this is an opportunity to capitalize on luck, and other people are like, well, I missed that one. The bag didn't fall off the truck, right? So it's a different version. So those are the first two. But the third one, and I thought was vastly the most important, was you're always in a people business. Even if your direct role doesn't come in contact with customers, you always have to speak and think on behalf of the end user customer, because if you are aligned with where the customer wants to go, you will, one, be working for a company that's moving in the right direction, and you will always have employment. And to me, that's what I try to emphasize with people. Even more tactically, I talk with my own team all the time. People don't buy our products; they buy our advice on our products. They buy how our products are going to help them be better, more effective, happier, whatever it is. And that's what you have to keep in mind. And like we said a few minutes ago, the customer is rarely in the room, so it falls on the people in the room to represent the customers, and we try to do that.
Totally, which is why I think even with Stripe and other amazing technologies that people want prescriptive tools. They don't want the generalities, right? Like the most successful businesses have been helping get customers to do a certain thing the way it's developed. Like for example, Slack, right? Like Slack, it's not just like instant, it's like helping you. The way that it's built is driving intercompany collaboration. The way Stripe's developed, especially now with like all the elements that you can add, like it's like you start using this, you're going to be better already. People want, like you're saying, they want the how, they want the advice, whether it's verbal or whether it's through the product. And I think, a lot of people, especially now with these hype cycles, are getting excited about the technology for technology's sake versus how is this helping our customers or our
Absolutely.
customers' customers.
In fact, we just prior to getting on this, we had a Friday fireside, and we typically bring in a customer to tell us how we're doing and how it's going. And basically, it's Stripe wide, so anybody can listen in on it. And it is extremely valuable to hear firsthand how our products and services are benefiting, because it's very energizing to us Stripes to recognize that, wow, there's actually an outcome, right? Because during the course of the day, your head's down, making sure that you're doing your job and it's working. But to hear that it's actually benefiting customers and how they grew their business and how they added employees and how they opened up another office, like you can't get enough of that stuff. It's like mainlining coffee for your morning routine. Like you leave those calls pretty energized for the next thing you're going to do.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. Well, this was, on that theme, was energizing for me to hear about, someone like yourself still focused on, again, customer outcomes, speaking their language, involving their end customers in the conversations. That's how you're going to get some big transformative deals done, and building a culture around that. So this was, super fun for me on the Friday today to jam out on this, Robert. So appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you. This is great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And feel free to talk anytime.